Good morning, everybody. Yet another beautiful day in Norfolk, even though it's January. Today I want to talk about a sort of missing step, a thing that I realized most people don't do, that outdoor educators do that really helps them benefit from the paddling that they're doing or any outdoor thing that they're doing. So I think of it as a missing step. I did another video about the missing step, which was float plans, and this actually works really well along with that. Let's get a boat on the water and we'll talk about it. Good winds today. Okay, coming back in, wind has pretty much died. It was a little too windy out there to talk about what I wanted to talk about, so we're going to do it on land. But it fits in perfectly to what sort of just transpired, which is I want to talk about debriefing a paddle. So most people, when they do something in the outdoors, when they're done, they go home. If we're lucky, they will clean their gear and put it away appropriately. If we're unlucky, they'll just stick it in a closet and be done with it. But a step that outdoor professionals take when they're done is usually right away, or if not, 24 or 48 hours later, they will debrief the outdoor activity, the paddle, the bike ride, the rock climb class, whatever. And it's really the best way to learn about what transpired. What can we take from what we just experienced and learn from it? What were teachable moments? What were things we could have done better? What were things that went really well? And so we're going to do that. Once we get on shore, we're going to sit down and we're going to debrief this. Okay, boat is on the roof. Let's get out of some of this gear and let's debrief that paddle. And so, much like the float plan that I talked about earlier, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link to that up there. This can be super simple, or this can be more detailed. And in its simplest form, it can be a conversation between two paddlers, or I could have this conversation just with myself, or on the other end of the spectrum, organizations like Knowles will have an actual procedure. After the course is done, you'll meet with a program supervisor who'll talk through, they'll have by then looked at all the feedback from the students, and they'll talk about sort of how the course went and things like that. It's fairly formal, though usually over a cup of coffee. REI actually did not do a good job of these. At REI, we had incident forms, but we didn't debrief courses. We didn't debrief really between instructors. I did it a couple times with folks just to sort of role model it, but it was not a thing at REI. So it could be as simple as me sitting down with, having a conversation with myself. Hey, this is what worked. This is what didn't work. This is what surprised me, Or I have offered this for a long time, though not a lot of people have bought it. I sell on Amazon an adventure journal, and each page is set up so that you can fill it out for whatever it was that you did that day, whatever sport. It's not paddling specific. And you can keep track of what occurred and what didn't occur. So for me on this paddle, In general, I thought it was a good paddle. It was a little sportier, meaning a little windier than I would have liked. And then there was a lot more chop than I anticipated. It's still a pretty protected area. Technically, it's the James River, which is open to the Chesapeake. But there was a fair amount of wave action. In terms of safety, I think I did a good job with that. I knew what the weather was going in. The sea state did surprise me a little bit. I had my VHF on and I was monitoring 16 for most of the paddle. I stayed relatively close to shore. I mean, I was quarter of a mile offshore, 400, 500 yards offshore, and then wrapped around two big freighters. I think they were ore freighters. Observe if I wanted to keep going, and there was really just more of the same down the coast further on, and so I decided to turn around, and then had a sporty paddle back because I had the wind behind me as well as the waves, so I was surfing back, which was kind of fun, but also a little stressful. But in terms of safety, I think it went really well. I was super comfortable. Yeah, all in all, a good paddle. A little surprised by the amount of chop out there, and so that's something to be aware of if I paddle here again. It can be that simple. Let's take a look at the journal that I sell if you think that's something that might help you. So the adventure journal is super simple, blank, essentially a blank book. Each page has a line for trip name, activity type, because you can use it for things besides kayaking, trip duration, weather, gear notes, and then a slot for narrative where you can just sort of fill in what transpired. And it's a good, I left it pretty blank so that you could be like, hey, these are things that worked well, these are things that didn't work well, or if you prefer writing a story, you can do it however you want to do it. But the important thing is that you do something so that you are debriefing what occurred, even just for a simple day paddle. So you know, hey, I got to remember my bilge pump isn't working. Hey, I got to remember the pack fit on this particular backpack isn't right, and I need to work on it. Super little things that you can do paired with a float plan. Both of them are easily forgotten and will make a huge difference when things are good, when things are bad. Either way, it's just a good way to sort of build skills and work towards the future of like, hey, I want to get to a point where I'm doing this well. So all of them are good like that. Do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. I'll see you outside.